Hello, I'm Simon Roome. I'm Synthax Audio's Broadcast Sales Manager. I'm here today to talk to you about the Type R console and why it's so relevant to the way that engineers are having to work these days. So the Type R console, what is it? The Type R is a broadcast mixing console. By that we mean it's a mixing console specifically designed for broadcast. So it includes broadcast specific features such as mix minus, comprehensive monitoring, full redundancy, a range of other features that are highly relevant for broadcast application. The console's designed in the UK by Calrec. Calrec have been manufacturing broadcast mixing consoles for many years. So the Calrec console comes with the usual stamp of reliability. So as well as the operational features, the Type R's also got some physical features that make it incredibly relevant for the way that we're working today. So the console is modular. By that we mean it's built up with small components, which means it's very scalable. You can build it to become the console you need for the application. You can build it as large or as small as you need to fit the job that it's being used on. You can also reconfigure it very quickly. So the surface is actually built from 3 different components. Everything is built up using a combination of fader panels, of large soft panels, and of small soft panels. So these soft panels can actually be configured in a number of different ways. They can be configured as channel screens, as monitoring screens, or even as control screens. So as well as the surface components being flexible, the I/O is also very flexible. The basic system is a single 2U box that will give you 16 inputs, 16 outputs and some GPIO. Then to increase the size of the system, we offer these additional I/O boxes. You've obviously got the core, which is your basic I/O. You've then got the option to add analog, digital, or combo, which is analog and digital, and some additional headphone outputs. So these expander boxes let you build the system all the way up to 500 inputs and 500 outputs. The I/O boxes are connected into the main box over IP. You can also build the system again that meets your needs. So you can build the I/O up to actually fit the application the console is being used in. You've also got a lot of flexible processing. So the processing you get again with the basic system gives you 20 legs on the input, gives you up to 8 group buses, 8 aux buses, 3 main outputs, but the system allows you to add licenses in. And what these licenses do is they expand it. So the hardware does not need to get any bigger. Everything is built into the 2U box. If you add a license, it means you can expand the processing. Instead of being 20 legs, it becomes 40 legs, 80 legs, even 120 legs. It'll also expand the processing, so instead of being the 32 buses you get with the standard box, it goes all the way up to 64 buses. The other great thing you get with the Type R is full core redundancy. So all of the processing, whether it's 20 channels all the way up to 120 channels, by the addition of a second core becomes fully redundant with instant changeover. So the Calrec Type R offers you some great opportunities for remote operation. So we've already seen that the bulk of the console is contained within the 2U core. Now this core contains the processing, the I/O, the audio over IP connections. It also hosts a web server. This web server lets you connect in over IP to control the console. So the console's got a range of ways that it can be controlled. We've obviously got the physical hardware. The web server allows us to connect in. So we have a piece of software that you can access through the web server called Calrec Assist, giving you full control. The third way it can be done is with third-party automation. We said the Type R was great for remote operation, but what sort of remote operation would the Type R really be useful for? The first workflow would be the scenario where a sound supervisor must work from home, mixing a studio show remotely. In this instance, the core and the I/O frames would be located in the apparatus room at the studio building. The mics, EVS and any other sources would then connect directly to the core. The engineer would be located at home with the required number of fader panels and soft panels to mix the show. He can then use his home IP connection to connect him back to the studio to actually control the core. The second workflow will be the scenario where the sound supervisor is working in the sound control room, controlling a console located remotely, perhaps at a sports venue. In this scenario, the sound supervisor would have his control hardware with him in the sound control room, but the processing core and the audio I/O would be located remotely. The connection between studio hardware and the remote I/O would then be carried over the internet. Variations on either scenario could be imagined, but the point is that the engineer and the hardware don't need to be in the same location. So let's have a closer look at the benefits of using a Type R in a remote scenario. We briefly touched on redundancy, but let's look a little closer and see what that means. So the Type R has the option to include a fully redundant core. So all of the processing is run in parallel. If one core fails, there is a seamless changeover to the second. Because the core is controlled using connection into a web browser, it means that if the link is lost between the engineer and the core, it's still possible for the console to be controlled. So if you just have a small panel located where the core is, then that small panel can take over control. In fact, you can go a stage further and say, just have an instance of Calrec Assist connected. That can become your controller on site for emergency takeover if you lose your uplink. The other advantage is that because the Calrec Assist application can dial in, that can be perhaps from a third location. So you can have a guarantee running Assist will be able to keep an overview of what's going on and take over and complete the show if need be. The other great thing about having a small panel or an instance of Calrec Assist on site is that it means you don't need your uplink between engineer and core to be active during setup. It means that somebody can just have a small amount of control for line check, for configuration on site that can be done independent of the remote engineer. So we've already mentioned that the connection between the core and the I/O boxes is audio over IP. It's actually AS67 and is fully ST2110 compliant. So because it's audio over IP, it means it's very easy to reconfigure the system and make it larger or smaller depending on the job you're sending it out. So you don't have to send the whole console out, you send out the bits that you just need for that job. Similarly, the surface is also modular, which means that again, you can add, you can remove components and you can build the console that's required for the job it's going to. And finally, by having this flexibility, it means when the space that you're going into is perhaps a little bit smaller than you'd expect, that's fine because you can just send out a smaller console. The console itself is pretty compact. If you need to make it a little bit smaller, send a fader panel less. So the reconfiguring, the building the system to fit the job can easily be done in prep before anything is shipped out. You can build it into the cases, you can make it ready to travel, and you can also make it very easy to put together and take apart once you get to site. You can build the system into cases that are ready to go to site, ready to be opened up and put together very straightforward, very quickly by non-audio staff. The system is then also very easy to tear down afterwards. So once you actually start mixing on site, the benefits become very clear. Having the processing in the same location as all the audio means that all the foldbacks, all the IFBs are generated in real time on site, so there's no delay introduced. Thanks for taking the time to watch our video. If you're interested in finding out more about the Type R, or if you'd like a demo of the Type R, or the Brio, or Calrec Assist, or anything else Calrec, either in person or remote, please just get in touch. You can contact us in the link in the description below.